The Thunderbolts releases later this week and will be giving us a very different team than what's come before in the MCU. While it could be seen as Marvel's attempt to do their own variation of Task Force X, the Thunderbolts in the comics are a much more flexible team in terms of membership and objective. Sometimes you may have Norman Osborn heading a team full of villains, and other times you may get some morally gray folks together in order to run a mission where the other heroes are busy. This made Thunderbolts a very difficult team to assemble in order to appease fans of the comics, but I think that the MCU's first outing with this team is the best version that we could have had. Getting some lesser known or forgotten characters who maybe didn't get enough of the chance to impress in their initial outing together and give them an Avengers style team and movie, and no character deserves a bigger chance to impress than the Soviet Union's first and only super soldier, the Red Guardian.
It still fits.
The comic origins of the Red Guardian are pretty inconsequential and not extremely relevant to the MCU interpretation, but we'll look at them briefly just to highlight the differences. Alexei Shostakov's first appeared in Avengers number 43 as the former husband of Black Widow, and became a reoccurring thorn in the team's side. Unlike in the MCU, this character was not a super soldier and served to reflect the Cold War, while also adding to Black Widow's backstory. He was her test pilot husband, thought to be dead, but instead trained to become the Soviet Union's solution to Captain America. He was a very one-note disposable character that served his purpose in the stories that he appeared in, and he was later replaced by other characters that would take up the Red Guardian mantle. His disposability was one of the primary focuses on how the character could be brought into the post-Cold War era of the MCU, somebody that his government built into a hero for their people and then quickly discarded when they were done with him. Alexi would make his live-action debut in the first film of Phase 4, Black Widow. However, I would be remiss to mention the fact that the MCU did also adapt a character who would take on the Red Guardian mantle in the comics. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. featured Anton Ivanov, and the show intended for him to become not Red Guardian, but the first MCU incarnation of MODOK. This didn't happen either, and the character is mostly forgotten now. I just needed to mention him, otherwise we'd probably get some comments in the comment section about how Alexei wasn't the first live-action Red Guardian. Alexei is introduced as the adoptive father of Natasha Romanov and Yelena Belova, a seemingly competent KGB agent who previously served as the Red Guardian in an unknown capacity. This version of the character received some form of the super soldier serum, and became a well-known hero to the people of the Soviet Union. He was forced to hang up the suit in the early 90s and became an undercover agent living in Ohio alongside Black Widow Melina Vostokov. After the completion of the mission, he begs the head of the Red Room, Dreykov, to get back into the field and suit up once more as the Red Guardian. This is the crux of what makes Alexei such a tragic character. His life and everything he's done and everything he wants to do is in service of an idea that is long dead. In the decades following this, Alexei is abandoned and thrown into captivity. In Alexei's eyes, Red Guardian was meant to be an equal to Captain America, and from the comfort of a prison cell, he's had to watch the hero return to the limelight and save Earth on multiple occasions. He even references himself as Steve's contemporary, even though at that point in the MCU timeline, when Red Guardian was actively working for the Soviets, the real Steve Rogers was frozen, as someone in prison even points out to him. And yeah, I did the research on whether he could have meant Isaiah Bradley's Captain America. The timelines don't match up. Bradley was in prison for 30 years shortly after his mission in Korea in the 1950s. He also retired from any Captain America super soldier stuff after faking his death in the 1980s. Keep in mind, he was incarcerated all that time, so there really was no Captain America that Alexei realistically could have faced off against. His old war stories are nothing more than lies or exaggerations about his old glory days. He's like an aging rocker reminiscing about shows that maybe never happened. The world where he was celebrated and beloved disappeared when the Soviet Union collapsed, and that's something that we see repeated with a lot of super soldier characters in the MCU. They all, in some way, live in the shadow of Steve Rogers. For every super soldier that we've seen, their lives have usually been given back to them in complicated and often tragic ways. Steve Rogers was a man out of time, but overall he forged a gold standard on what being a superhero is, building a legacy that makes him a household name. He never did quite fit in with the timeline, but eventually he got his happy ending by going back into an alternate timeline to live with Peggy Carter. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, was imprisoned and used as a weapon for decades, but found purpose again in Wakanda, and eventually helped Sam Wilson during The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even giving Sam that heartfelt pep talk during his campaign in Brave New World. For once, he was not completely guilt-ridden for his actions as the Winter Soldier, showing that he's moving on with his life. John Walker is more or less in the same boat as Alexei. He's someone who took on the mantle of Captain America, who tried to live up to the example that he set, but he did so for the wrong reasons and made a lot of mistakes in the process. But he's very clearly going through a redemption arc right now in the MCU. For more on him, you can actually check out Zach's great video. Link in the description. And finally, but not last, Isaiah Bradley. His story is based purely in tragedy, being experimented on and locked away by the US government. But his story is at least acknowledged by Sam, who makes sure that he is honored and remembered by history at the end of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Alexei, though, doesn't have any of that. He doesn't even have the legacy of Captain America. He's stuck in the past and clinging to a faded dream. He isn't moving forward like Bucky, he doesn't seem to be on a redemption arc like John Walker, and he doesn't have any kind of public recognition like Isaiah Bradley. The only things that are left of his legacy are some action figures and maybe a footnote in the history books of the Soviet Union. In fact, his reputation is treated as a joke even by other characters in the MCU. It's almost like he's not even seen as a real costumed hero, but just a guy who put on a costume and said he was a superhero. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom with Alexei. His connection with his family is probably the only thing that really keeps him grounded and relatable. Back when he was undercover in Ohio, he was tasked to live with a family that keep up the illusion. During the 4 years that fake family spent together, they developed a real bond, which was shattered the night that Alexei completed his mission. Natasha and Yelena were shipped off to complete their training as Black Widows, and Alexei found himself begging Dreykov to put him back into the action, still chasing that feeling of being a hero in the spotlight rather than an invisible spy. Years later, the family reunites during Natasha's mission to bring down the Red Room, and as far as fake undercover spy family reunions go, it's still pretty awkward and tense. Alexei is initially cold and standoffish to his adoptive daughters. In his eyes, they were successful products of their training, growing up to be excellent assassins and soldiers, something that they clearly do not agree with. Alexei's reasoning is simple. For him, it's always about the mission and serving a greater purpose, whether that was for his country or ideology. But for Natasha and Yelena, their time together was real. They were a real family, or at least as close to one as they ever got. Over the course of the movie, you can actually see Alexei begin to understand that. During their dinner scene, he admits that he thought that they were good parents, or at least acted like it. And even though he's still missing the bigger picture of what being a good parent actually means, you can see that he does genuinely care for Natasha and Yelena. He tries to comfort them, tries to help them on their mission, and that carries over into the Thunderbolts. In the trailer, when Yelena walks into what looks like a void created by Sentry that seemingly kills anything that it touches, we see Alexei actually freak out. Bucky has to hold him physically back. You can see the genuine fear in his eyes. He already lost Natasha during the events of Endgame, something that I imagine we'll see him grapple with even more during the Thunderbolts, and he's terrified of losing another daughter. Alexei is a different kind of tragic character in the Marvel Universe than most we've seen. I know when you click the thumbnail, you might have thought initially, well, actually that would be Spider-Man or Thor. And yeah, those are tragic characters too. They've been through a lot. But Alexei feels different. He feels a little bit more realistic. He's a man whose glory days are behind him. He has no real prospects for the future. No legacy that others respect. No institutions or statues built in his honor. Just faded memories and a body too worn out to chase after the dreams that he once had. He's working on mediocre jobs just to get by while the rest of the world moves on. But the Marvel Universe is nothing if not great at giving people a second chance. And behind all the sadness of Alexei's life, you can still see the heart of a decent man, flawed and broken as he might be. And that's why I love this character, and I can't wait to see what Marvel does with him in the Thunderbolts and the upcoming Avengers movies. And also, seeing more David Harbour is always a plus. But that just about wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys for the support on the new longer form videos. We've noticed, and we like doing them. So, as it goes, you guys keep watching them, we'll keep doing them. Thank you guys so much for your support. We'll catch you guys on the next one.